Hey folks, so if you have one of these Haeir or Hotpoint or GE freezers, or popularly known as chest freezers, and you have them placed in your garage, after a few years you might have a few problems with these. They do make garage rated chest freezers. They actually have a heating element that kind of fools the thermostat, but I won't get into that. But a lot of times these freezers, they're probably mid quality or kind of like on the lower end. But I've had this since 2017 and it's lasted me many years. And I did have one issue earlier where the PTC relay needed to be changed. So the design of these is pretty simple. So there's really no startup capacitors or anything. There's just mainly there's a compressor, and near the compressor right there, you actually have the PTC relay in that black box. So in this video, I'm not really gonna show you how to change the PTC relay, but that is something that I did a few months ago. Fairly easy, provided you get the right part. I would highly suggest taking a picture when you do open this black box, and then go ahead and change the relay and wire it up using the reference picture that you took. So again, like if you look closely over here, this white wire, that's the thermopile, or that actually is connected to this thermostat unit. And in this particular example, this was the problem. I had an older thermostat and it actually went bad. This is what that one looks like. So it's fairly easy to replace one of these. You can probably get these for about 13 to 14 or 13 to $15 on Amazon. The aftermarket ones, if you look for the original GE ones, they're a little pricey. But really, I mean, it's a pretty simple device that does the same thing. It actually connects to this front control right there. There's this light all the way up on top. Right now the freezer is turned off because I'm about to make some adjustments to the there's actually two ways to adjust these. So if you buy one of these aftermarket ones and connect this, so like I said, it's fairly easy to replace these. There's this one sort of like white kind of like a tubing that they have connected to the interior of the freezer. You actually have to pull this one out. What I found was pulling these out when the freezer is like really cold is a little difficult, or you might actually have it stuck somewhere. Might be due to some ice buildup inside, even though it's inside of the freezer. It really shouldn't happen, but it does. It's physics, I guess. So what you do is you either defrost the freezer completely for a day or two, or if you're in a hurry, if you have frozen food, just take the frozen food out, pour some hot water. I wouldn't recommend pouring boiling water, but hot water in this section of the freezer, like it's right here somewhere. That's where the actual probe actually goes into, or the capillary thermopile. So pour some hot water. This should just then slide off. You notice I have a little bit of exposed portion. There's some silicone putty like this that actually goes on there. I haven't put that on yet, but you pull this out and then you basically slide in the new one. As you can see in this example, when I pull this one out, I actually ended up breaking this, so it's a little fragile. But if you pay a little kind of like if you pay a little care in pulling it out, the reason I broke that one is because when it was actually jammed in, when the freezer was cold, instead of waiting or defrosting, I actually tried pulling it, and I probably ended up it's sort of brittle, right? So I ended up breaking it because of that reason. But I was lucky; it had enough part protruding out, so I can, once it was the freezer was hot enough, I was able to use some needle nose pliers to pull that straight out, and then put the new one back in. Screw this on this unit right here. There's really not much to this connections. Like I have these two extra wires going into the actual light, indicating that the unit is turned on. There's the ground right here in green, and then there's these red and black. The order doesn't matter. So what this does is, if you actually, when the freezer is actually supposed to turn on, if you check the continuity between these two, there should be like, it should have continuity, meaning it'll turn the compressor on. And this is, like I said before, this is a very simple unit. It's got a compressor, it's got a PTC relay, it's got this thermostat. There's no like fans inside, nothing fancy. It's just basically the coils going all the way, and working that way, so not much to do here. What makes it nice is it's fairly simple to fix. This might not be the best freezer out there, but it's fairly convenient to fix these. So yeah, so one other thing that I wanted to show, which it's a little difficult, is once you get these in, there is this control right here on the actual thermostat that you can use to play with the temperature setting. So as you can see, mine's set to max right now. But what I noticed was that this was not really working the way I wanted it to work. It's recommended that your temperature be below 0 degrees, Fahrenheit, when you have frozen meat in there. So mine was probably around 5 to 10 degrees. I don't really like that, so there is a way to actually adjust that. So what I'm about to do is I'm about to adjust it just a little so that I can get the temperature down, and that is done using this bottom screw right here. So if you're looking at the thermostat, that's the bottom part. There is the screw over here. So if you turn it anti-clockwise, you actually make it cooler, meaning the temperature is going to go down. The thermostat will actually get the freezer to run more to get it the temperature down. The other thing you got to pay attention to is this top screw right here, and by default they come with some sort of like sealant applied to them, so it's a little hard to get the screwdriver on them. What I found was you could use one of these like tiny ones and adjust these, but this one you got to be careful because this is the temperature differential adjustment screw. So what this means is, let's say you want your food to be at 0 or somewhere between -5 or -5 to 0 degrees Fahrenheit. That's actually a good temperature to be at. So ideally you would want it to be at -2.5 Fahrenheit, right? So once you adjust the bottom screw and get it to 2.5 with a particular setting like this, maybe, I would probably adjust it so that it's at 6 and then get it to 2.5. This way you can always turn it a notch colder if needed. And then the other thing you got to do is, because there is this tiny compressor in here, I think it runs at about 60 watts or 60 to 70 watts when I turn it on. So it's designed to actually draw little electricity and it can pretty much run all the time if needed. But what's not good is if it actually cycles quite often, right? So if you mess with this top screw and if you move it clockwise enough, you will reduce the differential. And what that means is, like, if you get the temperature based on the bottom screw at 2.5 or -2.5 degrees Fahrenheit, once it gets a little warmer, the compressor will kick on and it'll run almost continuously, and it'll have like a very narrow range between that -2.5. So let's say it might go to like 1.5 and it'll kick on, and then it'll basically keep running till it gets to somewhere between -3, and then it'll basically shut off for a very brief amount of time, and then it'll kick on again. So what you probably want to do is you want to like get this range to a temperature where it actually it cycles through, meaning like somewhat like at a lower frequency, meaning like you have it running for about 30 minutes and then it actually stays idle for 1 hour or 1.5 hours. And it all somewhat depends on the ambient temperature as well. So yeah, I mean, one easy way to do it is to actually use a thermometer, or and you got to be careful because these are actually designed for fridges and freezers. So these are thermometers available. I use one from Yolink. So you can see over here it's reading next 7.2 right now. So this is like, if you look at this like sawtooth chart at the end, this is how it should be. But what I'm about to do is to turn that temperature adjustment or differential screw counterclockwise to increase this range, because I don't really want this to stay at that temperature. You can see before I actually was playing around with it, and you can kind of see this steady line. That's basically the compressor just kicking on, like literally, every 5 minutes, and then kicking off or turning off for 5 minutes. So you don't want that. That's going to ultimately destroy the compressor because of frequent cycling. So what you want is something like the sawtooth, but you want to make it a little more, kind of like, the temperature differential a little higher. So maybe maybe like 3 degrees, 4 degrees. It all depends on this top screw adjustment. So again, these the thermostats, the aftermarket ones, I could not find any data sheets for these. Like, so it's a little bit of a hit and a miss. So that having the probe inside, and this is a wireless temperature probe that I have. It's Yolink. You could also use Govee. You can even monitor the humidity if you wanted, but just stick one of these in the freezers and play with this. And like I said, the temperature differential adjustment is clockwise will turn it like a cycle more. Anti-clockwise will widen the differential range, so it'll run less. Then the bottom screw is your temperature screw. So if you screw it in, meaning screw it clockwise, it will be warmer. If you screw it anti-clockwise, it will be colder. So something to keep in mind. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. So again, try to get it to the point where the compressor is not always running. The other nice thing that I kind of did was I connected one of these Casa smart plugs that have the energy utilization in them. So if you ever need to check remotely whether your freezer is running or not, it can actually show you the current power draw. So right now the fridge is or the freezer is turned off, so you can see 0 watts over here. It can actually tell you how long it's been running and everything. So it's a nice smart plug. In the event that you ever have the thermostat fail on you, what you can do is you can actually, and if you don't have a thermostat handy, that's what I did when this thing broke. I actually shorted this and this, which kicks the compressor on, but you don't want to leave it that way indefinitely because it's going to run all the time. So what you can do with this application is you can actually set a schedule where you can actually run it like during like certain intervals, like you turn it on at this time, turn it off. So this kind of lets you play with that. This way you can save all your expensive meat in the freezer until you get a replacement thermostat. These are usually available at Amazon, pretty cheap, but it might take you like a couple days to get them. So in this scenario, I didn't really have any space in the freezers inside the house, so this basically allowed me to save all my meat stored in the freezer until this new thermostat arrived that's already hooked up and ready to go. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Hopefully this helps. I mean, the main purpose of this video is basically showing you guys this thermostat because there's really no spec sheets out there. So again, the top side of this, right here, screw right here, is the temperature differential, and the bottom one is your the temperature at which you want the food to be. So clockwise again is making it warmer, anti-clockwise at the bottom one is making it colder. Anti-clockwise on the top one is making the range wider for the differential, and clockwise will make it narrower. And that's pretty much it. Hopefully this video helps folks that actually buy this thermostat and want to adjust their temperature so that the inside of the freezer is always below 0 degrees. That's what's recommended for frozen meat. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.